All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you have been hearing, the grand jury in New York City on the borough of Staten Island has returned no indictment against New York City police officer at the center of the Eric Garner case. Eric Garner he died while being arrested by 3 police officers. One put him in what's known as a chokehold. That chokehold is now against police procedure, but it is not illegal in New York City or New York State for that matter. So that's the difference. A grand jury has to decide if the law has been broken in any way, not if some improper procedure was followed. So that's the verdict. No indictment. Jonathan Tobin joins us, columnist and senior online editor of Commentary Magazine, who has a great piece at that site, Obama's Ferguson Dog and Pony Show. Let's talk about, Jonathan, what the grand jury handed down today. And you know, here's the interesting thing. In this case, there's a video. And you know, we heard so much of in the aftermath of Ferguson, all police should have cameras on their person, etc. The president wants millions of dollars for that. This was all videotaped.
You're right, Steve. You know, I don't have any special insight on that particular case, other than just following it as you have. But what does concern me is the way that some people in the media, you know, on the left-wing networks and in the mainstream liberal media, as well as some of their allies in the Obama administration, have been cherry-picking these cases and seeking to create this narrative of oppression and of a civil rights crisis and a race crisis, when the facts don't really justify that. And it's very upsetting, really, when you think this president had a unique opportunity to really advance the cause of race relations.
All right, you're freezing up a little bit there on your Skype, Jonathan. So, Jonathan, you're freezing up on your Skype. We kind of lost you when you said that the president had a great opportunity. Why don't you elaborate after that?
Loved it because he has spent, Steve, the last 6 years.
All right, folks, we're having some trouble. We're going to try to get Jonathan Tobin on the back on the phone for the remaining time that we have left in this segment. I apologize for obviously for the technical difficulties, but you know, modern technology is a wonderful thing, except when it doesn't work right. Anyway, so you know, to his point about the left-wing people speaking on the media, on some of the liberal news networks, I've been watching particularly CNN on and off throughout the course of the day since the announcement was made, during commercial breaks, etc. And I'm hearing things like, you know, this is outrageous. This is an grave injustice. I'm hearing things like, you know, oh, he didn't resist arrest, when the video obviously shows him resisting arrest. Now, don't forget, the police officer in this case testified before the grand jury for, I believe it was over 2 hours. So this grand jury not only had the police testimony, but also had the videotape, okay? This wasn't, it was all on videotape. The encounter, the conversation, you know, did he resist arrest? What was said? What was done? So the grand jury had a clear picture. And Jonathan, to your point about the president having an opportunity, I don't think the president could ever get out of his mouth, you know, don't attack a police officer, or police officers are good. Listen to them when they speak to you.
Yeah, I think he is so tied into this with his allies like Al Sharpton, of this narrative of grievance rather than a narrative of opportunity. You know, he was elected as the hope and change guy. He was the guy who was going to transcend our history, but instead he sunk into it. I mean, remember, every time for the last 6 years, anytime anybody criticizes him, what do we hear? That's racism. He's debased the coinage of the term, which makes him uniquely, inopportune to do anything about it, to really say anything of value. And he's been kind of irrelevant here. And then when I spoke of his dog and pony show the other day, where he was talking about body cams and making believe, you know, as politicians do, making believe he's doing something when in fact he's doing nothing, it just shows how irrelevant and how damaging his role has been on these kinds of stories.
Yeah, and of course, not to mention Eric Holder, who spoke at the church that Dr. Martin Luther King had once spoken at, and assured everybody that the investigation into the shooting of Michael Brown and alleged, impropriety against the Ferguson Police Department, they're still ongoing, and he's giving them a false hope.
Yeah, and it's really fomenting more unrest. We're going to see more of these demonstrations, really alleging, which are based on a really false premise of oppression.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, we're out of time. Great to talk to you, sir. Sorry for the technical interruption, but very worthwhile conversation. Thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. Folks, if you want to be on the show and weigh in and ask me questions, you have to contact us first. And you do that by going to newsmax.com/Skype. Pat Buchanan's next.